She sits in a courtroom in Mississippi, smiling calmly, not anxious or afraid, just composed, as if she's waiting for her name to be called in class, not waiting to find out whether she'd spend the rest of her life behind bars. Carly Gregg had convinced herself of that. She believed the jury would see things her way. Her attorney argued she was unwell, a child whose mind had slipped. They informed the court that she had experienced a mental breakdown, that voices had taken over her mind on that horrific day. And for a time, the defense seemed effective. The jury appeared engaged. People began to question if a 14-year-old could truly orchestrate something like this. Then the prosecutor hit play, and everything shifted.
Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah. Shooting at me. She killed her mom. When I do that, she tried to kill me. What's her name? Carly Gregg.
Hey, I need you to talk to me. What is your son wearing?
She was in jeans and a grayish t-shirt. She's got short, brownish hair. She ran into the backyard. I tried to follow her. She jumped the fence and ran. She shot me in the neck.
What you are about to witness is the moment Carly Gregg realized the jury would never accept her narrative again. The moment she grasped that she wasn't going home. Not that day, not for years to come. Her mother was deceased. Her stepfather lay bleeding on the kitchen floor, and the evidence of what truly transpired was captured by a camera Carly had no idea was filming. This is the unsettling story of an honor roll student who transformed a .357 Magnum into an instrument of execution within her own household. If you haven't heard this tale before, brace yourself, as what unfolded in Brandon, Mississippi, on March 19, 2024, will challenge everything you believe you understand about teenage mental health, premeditated homicide, and how a basic home security camera can reveal even the most meticulously crafted deceit. Before we can comprehend the events of March 19, 2024, we must first explore who Carly Gregg was. At 14, Carly appeared like any other ambitious teenager. She was bright, self-assured, and humorous. A 10th grader at Northwest Rankin High School in Brandon, Mississippi, where her mother, Ashley Smiley, taught mathematics. Educators portrayed Carly as courteous and clever. Her friends described her as kind-hearted, witty, and approachable. On the surface, she resembled a joyful, responsible girl with a bright future ahead. Carly's mother, Ashley Smiley, was 40 years old, a mathematics teacher cherished by her students and esteemed by her peers. Friends characterized her as compassionate, patient, and profoundly devoted, both in her classroom and at home. Ashley had been previously married to Kevin Gregg. Carly's biological father, Kevin, battled mental health issues and substance abuse for years, and after their divorce, Ashley raised Carly primarily on her own. In 2020, Ashley wed Heath Smiley, a man recognized for his calm and gentle demeanor. Initially, Heath and Carly had a strong bond. He cared for her, supported her, and endeavored to help her feel understood. However, by early 2024, the atmosphere within their home began to shift. Carly appeared aloof, quieter, more withdrawn, and no one could quite pinpoint the reason. From an outsider's perspective, their life seemed steady and loving. But beneath that facade, a rising unease lingered, one that Ashley and Heath could perceive, but couldn't fully grasp. As the months went on, small fractures began to manifest. Carly started experiencing sleep disturbances. Some days, she would be cheerful and engaged. Other days, she was silent, withdrawn, and anxious. At first, her parents assumed it was typical teenage behavior, but soon it started to appear more concerning. Heath later testified that he found Carly had been self-harming. The cuts were concealed under her clothing, on her thighs, where others couldn't see. They were superficial yet intentional. Carly was using pain as a means to cope with feelings she couldn't articulate. Then even more alarming indicators began to surface. Her parents discovered that Carly had been using secret burner phones and vaping marijuana, and was secretly involved with an older boyfriend. She was leading two different lives, one as the bubbly, high-achieving student that everyone recognized, and another as a troubled teenager masking her inner turmoil. When confronted, Carly frequently reacted with defensiveness or anger. She was reluctant to share or discuss what she was going through. Yet, deep within, she faced challenges far more complex than anyone realized. Carly's therapist later revealed that she often felt a heavy burden of responsibility for her mother's happiness. She was desperate to be perfect for Ashley and couldn't bear the thought of letting her down. By December 2023, Ashley and Heath made the decision to seek professional help for her. They found a therapist, and by January 2024, Carly was prescribed Zoloft, a medication frequently used to treat depression and anxiety in adolescents. For a brief period, it seemed like things were settling down, but inside, Carly was beginning to completely unravel in ways that no one could perceive. She started hearing voices that weren't actually there, feeling that the world surrounding her wasn't tangible, and experiencing frightening thoughts that wouldn't let go. She documented her feelings in her journal, but kept those entries hidden. On March 12, 2024, precisely 1 week before the tragedy, Carly penned, "I think I experienced a psychotic break earlier. The whole situation is rather absurd. I actually conversed with one of the voices in my mind. Well, I didn't hear them until earlier today, but I only do at that moment. My particular friend and I were practically yelling, bloodthirstily and hungrily. Thank goodness physical confrontation was not an option. I sound insane." That journal entry later took on significant importance in court. Some believed it illustrated that Carly was genuinely struggling with her mental health, while others thought she penned it intentionally to rationalize her next course of action. The following day, Carly returned to her nurse practitioner for a medication review. She mentioned that the Zoloft made her feel numb and detached, leading to a switch in her prescription to Lexapro, another type of antidepressant. This change occurred just 6 days before the shooting. Unbeknownst to anyone at the time, something within Carly was spiraling out of control. March 19, 2024. Commenced as a typical Tuesday in Brandon, Mississippi. Ashley Smiley headed to work at Northwest Rankin High School, where she taught and where her 14-year-old daughter, Carly Madison Gregg, was a 9th grader. Her husband, Heath Smiley, left for work shortly thereafter. As the morning unfolded, something transpired that would trigger the events of that afternoon. A friend of Carly's, worried about her behavior, approached Ashley at school. He informed her that Carly had been regularly vaping marijuana, had burner phones, and was having conversations with boys. Ashley was unaware of those interactions. Those who spoke with Ashley later stated that she wasn't furious. Rather, she was worried, concerned for her daughter's welfare more than upset about the rule-breaking itself. The school day concluded, and Ashley and Carly drove home together. This is where the security cameras capture the unfolding events. At around 3:54 p.m., Ashley's car entered the garage. She and Carly exited, entered the home together, and brought inside the family's 2 dogs. The footage displayed no signs of an argument or tension. Understanding the layout of the Smiley home is crucial to grasp what occurred next. The garage connects to a small laundry room, leading into the kitchen. To the right of the kitchen is Carly's bedroom. To the left, further down the hall, is the master bedroom. In the areas where Ashley and Heath slept, security cameras monitored several spots in the house: the garage, the kitchen, and the laundry room. They recorded non-stop, uploading footage to the cloud instantly. Ashley makes her way to Carly's bedroom. This was understandable, considering what she had learned at school that day. She intended to search for the vape pens and marijuana cartridges to take them away from Carly. Meanwhile, Carly took the dogs outside to the backyard. For a few moments, all was quiet. Ashley was rummaging in Carly's room while Carly was outside with the dogs. Then Carly returned inside. The footage captured Carly strolling slowly through the kitchen. She seemed calm and composed, She moved purposefully, glancing toward her bedroom where she knew her mother was, rummaging through her things. Next, she turned and walked in the opposite direction toward the master bedroom. Around 4:00 p.m., Carly entered her parents' bedroom and retrieved her mother's .357 Magnum handgun from beneath the mattress. She discreetly hid the weapon behind her back as she moved around the house. Less than a minute later, Carly crossed back through the house. She was now walking cautiously, her right arm awkwardly positioned behind her back. As she passed the kitchen entrance, she paused and peered inside, ensuring Ashley hadn't left her bedroom. Carly then entered her own bedroom. Three gunshots rang out through the house. Ashley was hit multiple times in the head and upper body. Though she survived for a brief moment after the shots, the wounds were ultimately fatal. Within minutes, the medical examiner would testify about the path and impact of those 3 bullets. The first bullet struck Ashley in the shoulder. The second hit her in the neck. Either of those injuries could have been deadly, but the third shot sealed Ashley's fate. It was fired from less than 3 feet away, directly into her face, just above her right eye. In the moments after taking her mother's life, Carly Gregg did something that became the most debated and scrutinized part of the entire case. She calmly walked back to the kitchen and sat down. The timestamp on the security footage is vital here. Ashley was shot sometime between 4:43 and 4:47 p.m., according to audio analysis. Carly didn't call 911 until 4:57 p.m. This means there were approximately 10 to 13 minutes where Carly was alone in the house with her mother's lifeless body. During those moments, she made no attempt to aid her mother. She didn't call for help. Instead, what she did next would become crucial to the prosecution's case. That this wasn't a moment of psychotic breakdown or temporary insanity, but rather a calculated, intentional act, followed by efforts to cover it up and perpetuate the violence. The kitchen camera recorded Carly sitting at the counter. She was still clutching the gun behind her back, out of the camera's sight. She picked up her mother's iPhone from the counter where Ashley had left it. Knowing her mother's passcode, Carly unlocked the phone and opened the messaging app. She texted Heath Smiley, "When will you be home, honey?" The choice of words was intentional. Honey is how Ashley referred to Heath. Carly was posing as her mother, attempting to make Heath believe everything was fine at home and to persuade him to come back. Heath replied that he would be leaving work soon and would likely be home in about an hour. Carly responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Heath indicated he would be leaving work soon and expected to be home in about an hour. Carly replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Then she began reaching out to her friends. In the minutes following the murder of her mother, she FaceTimed several people. She confided in them that she had truly messed up and that she had done something horrific. She was crying and visibly upset, yet she wasn't completely incoherent. When one friend suggested calling 911, Carly refused. "Don't do that, don't call anyone." Instead, she invited a particular friend over. When that friend arrived, she walked in completely unaware of what was about to unfold. Carly opened the door and asked, "Do dead bodies bother you?" Carly led her friend inside and revealed Ashley's body sprawled on the floor of Carly's bedroom. The friend recounted that she was horrified, paralyzed, unsure of how to react or process the scene before her. But Carly continued to explain herself. She told her friend, "I put 3 in my mom. I've got 3 more waiting for my stepdad. He's on his way home right now." Then Carly instructed her friend to go hide in the backyard. When Heath came home, Carly intended to complete what she had started before he showed up. Carly committed an act that investigators would later deem profoundly disturbing. She rearranged her mother's body, folding Ashley's hands over her stomach as if tucking her into a coffin. She then covered her mother's face with a red towel, concealing the gunshot wound. And as time went by, the kitchen camera recorded something else. Carly, softly humming and singing to herself, while her mother's body lay just a room away. Heath Smiley left work around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He had received a text from who he thought was his wife, asking when he would be back. Everything felt normal. He had no reason to believe anything was amiss. When Heath got home, he exited his car and approached the door, leading into the laundry room and kitchen. As soon as Heath opened the door, Carly was already there, brandishing a gun. The moment he stepped inside, she fired multiple times. One of the bullets struck Heath in the shoulder, very close to his face. Despite the pain, Heath acted on instinct. Being much larger and stronger, he charged at Carly, attempting to seize the gun to prevent her from shooting. During their struggle, more shots erupted. Later, Heath mentioned he wasn't certain who fired those last rounds, and all he could think about was taking the gun away from Carly. Throughout this ordeal, Carly screamed, not articulating any words, just letting out a long, frantic scream. Heath would later describe the sound as wild and horrifying, completely different from anything he had ever heard from her before. He eventually wrested the gun from her grasp. The moment he succeeded, Carly bolted out the back door and down the street, with her friend in pursuit. Heath still in disbelief and bleeding, began searching the house for an intruder. At first, he couldn't comprehend what had occurred. He assumed someone else must have attacked Carly, and that she was merely defending herself. Then he stepped into Carly's bedroom. That's where he discovered Ashley. He immediately reached for his phone to call 911, while still losing blood.
Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah. Shooting at me. Where is she at? She ran away. How old is she? 14. 14? Okay, ma'am, stay on the phone with me. Ma'am, stay on the phone with me. Just calm down. What's your name? Heath Smiley. Heath Smiley? Yes, sir. Did she hit you? Yeah, I got hit in the neck a little bit. Okay, so did it graze your neck? Yes, sir. All right. And what's her name? Carly Gregg. Carly Gregg? Does she still have a gun on her? I took it from her. She ran. You took it from her and she ran? Yes, sir. She was screaming something at me I couldn't understand. I locked the door. She's outside. I don't know what's going on. Which way did she run off to? She ran into the backyard and went over a fence. Ran into the backyard and went over your fence? Yeah. What is she wearing? T-shirt, gray shirt and some jeans. Gray shirt and jeans? About how tall is she? 5'2". About 5'2"? What color hair? Brownish. Brownish, just short hair. 5'2" with back door, she opened fire on me. And was just screaming. Okay, just calm down for me. We got everybody headed for She what? She killed her mom. She killed her mom? your wife? She's dead on the floor of my stepdaughter's room. She's on the floor in your stepdaughter's room? She's my stepdaughter and her mom. I don't know what's going on. The stepdaughter's in therapy for a little while, trying to work out some problems.
Paramedics and police arrived in mere minutes. The quiet street on Ashton Way in Brandon, Mississippi, was overwhelmed with emergency vehicles.
Hey, where's your son wearing? Hey, can you tell me what your son's wearing? Hey, I need you to talk to me. What is your son wearing?
He was in jeans and a grayish t-shirt. She's got short, brownish hair.
So, jeans, a gray t-shirt, short brown hair.
She ran into the backyard. I tried to follow her. She jumped the fence and ran. She shot me in the neck.
Look,
It's okay, I think.
does she still have the gun?
It's on the kitchen counter. I think there's one live round left in it. I opened the cylinder. I went in the back door and she tried to shoot me.
What's her name, bud?
Carly Gregg.
Carly Gregg? How old is she?
14. She'll be 15 next month.
Okay.
While the first responders tended to Heath and secured the home, other officers began scouring the neighborhood for Carly. She had escaped on foot, leaping over fences and darting through backyards, leaving everyone unsure about her whereabouts. A deputy patrolling Farmington Boulevard, just a few streets from the Smiley residence, spotted a young girl standing by a drainage ditch. She looked small for her age, disoriented and terrified. It was Carly. The deputy halted his vehicle and approached her with caution. She admitted to being involved in the incident. Carly was handcuffed and placed into the back of the patrol car. While sitting in the police vehicle, Carly repeatedly asked if Heath was all right and if he would survive his injuries. The car later stopped so the officers could conduct a gunshot residue test on her hands to determine which hand she had used to fire the gun. However,
Is that okay? I don't know, baby. I can't talk to you about it. Are you okay?
Yeah.
back at the house, investigators uncovered a shocking scene. Evidence was strewn everywhere. Security footage from multiple cameras, text messages, phone records, and physical clues left behind. When they pieced it all together, it clearly demonstrated what had transpired that day. But what the investigators couldn't decipher, and what the trial would later center on, wasn't the incident itself, but the rationale behind it. Everyone understood what Carly had done. The real question was whether she had acted during a mental breakdown or if she fully grasped what she was doing. The inquiry was why, and more critically, whether Carly was legally accountable for her actions. Carly Madison Gregg was initially placed in a juvenile detention facility, but that arrangement didn't last long due to the severity of the charges. Given the nature of the crime, prosecutors opted to charge her as an adult. She faced 3 charges: first-degree murder for the death of Ashley Smiley, attempted murder for shooting Heath Smiley, and tampering with evidence for concealing the kitchen security camera. Under Mississippi law, first-degree murder carries only 2 potential sentences: life in prison with the possibility of parole, or life without parole. Because Carly was a minor, the death penalty wasn't an option. The Supreme Court had determined years earlier that executing someone for a crime committed while they were a minor was unconstitutional. Being charged as an adult meant Carly would be incarcerated in an adult facility. But because she was still a minor, she had to be segregated from adult inmates. In practice, this led to her being in solitary confinement for the following 6 months. From March 2024 until her trial in September, Carly Gregg spent 23 to 24 hours every day isolated in a cell. She had no interaction with other inmates, limited contact with guards. Her only regular visitors were her attorneys. The isolation was incredibly challenging for anyone, but especially for a 14-year-old already facing mental health struggles. Her defense team contended that being subjected to those conditions was exacerbating her situation, worsening her symptoms, and infringing on her rights as a minor. But the judge determined that there were no other options. Mississippi law required that juvenile offenders charged as adults be held apart from adult inmates. If that resulted in solitary confinement, so be it. In the meantime, both sides were gearing up for trial, crafting completely contrasting accounts of who Carly Gregg was and the events of March 19th. The prosecution's narrative was straightforward. Carly Gregg was a teenager leading a double life, using narcotics, communicating with boys, and concealing burner phones from her parents. When her mother discovered this and began searching her room, Carly made a calculated decision to take her mother's life. The composure visible on the security footage indicated she recognized her actions were wrong. The text exchanges with Heath demonstrated premeditation and deception. The way the body was positioned revealed a disturbing lack of remorse, and her attempt to harm Heath suggested this wasn't merely a momentary loss of control, but a deliberate scheme to inflict harm on both of her parents. Yes, Carly faced some mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and typical teenage troubles, but none of that indicated she was legally insane. She understood the distinction between right and wrong. She comprehended that harming someone was immoral, and the fact that she attempted to conceal her actions indicated she recognized it was unlawful. The defense's perspective was entirely different. Carly Gregg was a profoundly mentally ill child who had been battling for years, with conditions that no one fully grasped. She possessed a genetic inclination towards serious psychiatric disorders, inherited from her biological father, who suffered from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. She had been hearing voices since childhood, potentially as early as the age of 9. She endured dissociation, derealization, and intrusive thoughts that horrified her. For years, she had been resorting to self-harm as a means to cope with overwhelming emotions. Then, just 6 days before the murder, her medication was altered from Zoloft to Lexapro. For someone with underlying bipolar disorder, such a medication change can trigger manic episodes or exacerbate psychotic symptoms. By March 19th, Carly was undergoing a complete psychotic breakdown. According to Mississippi law, to be found not guilty by reason of insanity, the defense needed to demonstrate that at the time of the crime, Carly didn't understand the nature or quality of her actions, or that she didn't realize that her actions were wrong. It's a remarkably steep standard to reach. Insanity defenses succeed in under 1% of criminal cases. However, Carly's defense team was confident they had the proof to substantiate it, and should they prevail, Carly wouldn't face prison time. She would instead be admitted to a mental health facility for treatment. Eventually, if she stabilized and was deemed no longer a threat, she could potentially be released. But first, they would need to persuade a jury. Before that determination was reached, the prosecution made an offer in August 2024. A few weeks prior to the trial's start, the district attorney's office presented Carly's defense team with a proposition. She could plead guilty to all 3 charges, and in exchange, the state would recommend a 40-year sentence. In the Mississippi Department of Corrections, the other 2 charges, attempted murder and tampering, would either be dropped or merged into that sentence. 40 years for a 14-year-old. That meant she wouldn't be eligible for release until she was 54. She would spend her entire teenage years, and for much of her adult existence, behind bars. But when the moment arrived for a decision, Carly did something that took everyone by surprise. All right,
Miss Gregg, did you receive that recommendation of 40 years?
Yes, sir.
And it was your choice and your choice alone to reject that recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Carly Madison Gregg opted to roll the dice with a jury rather than accept a 40-year prison sentence. Her legal team backed her decision. They were convinced they had a solid mental health defense and believed that once the jury learned about Carly's background and heard from their expert, they'd recognize this as the story of a troubled young girl in need of help rather than someone acting out of malice. Carly was seated at the defense table, flanked by her lawyers. She appeared even younger than her 14 years. Throughout the trial, she was often seen in tears, covering her ears during particularly harrowing testimony, genuinely distressed by the evidence presented. However,
in all the time that you've known Carly, would you describe her as callous?
No.
Would you describe her as calculating?
No, except with math.
Would you describe her as diabolical?
No.
How would you describe Carly?
She's just a sweet little girl ever since I've known her.
When Heath had to recount the most horrific moment of that day, discovering Ashley's body in Carly's bedroom,
When you saw her laying there, what's the very next thing that you did?
Checked her pulse, see, and kind of moved the towel, and then called 911.
And Heath, when you moved the towel, what did you see?
I knew she had been shot. There was blood around, but I don't really recall exactly where, somewhere in the right side of her face.
the courtroom fell silent, except for the sound of Carly's sobs at the defense table. It was a profoundly emotional moment that set the stage for what came next as the testimony progressed. The attention shifted from Carly's actions to the reasons behind them. The crux of the trial transformed into the examination of her mental state. On the day of the homicide, both sides summoned mental health professionals, each constructing a vastly different narrative of Carly Gregg. The prosecution called upon 4 specialists who had evaluated her post-arrest. They concurred. She was a troubled teen, grappling with anxiety, depression, and self-injury, but not legally insane. Their testimony stressed intent and awareness, asserting that Carly's behavior on March 19, 2024, was intentional. She was fully aware of her actions and recognized they were wrong. The prosecution underscored Carly's intentional actions, unlocking her mother's phone, imitating her tone in a message, and coaxing her stepfather home. To them, these were indicators of calculation, not confusion. Even her therapist, who had treated her before the incident, stated she had never exhibited signs of psychosis, delusion, or aggression. Their medical experts addressed her recent transition from Zoloft to Lexapro, acknowledging potential side effects, but maintaining that the dosage was standard and the switch medically justified. They asserted there was no evidence that it could have resulted in a psychotic breakdown. And by the end of the trial, the courtroom was divided between 2 conflicting perspectives. The defense depicted Carly as a deeply disturbed child whose fragile psyche collapsed under the pressure of mental illness and medication side effects. In contrast, the prosecution characterized her as a calculating teen who fully understood her actions and executed them with precision. Which narrative the jury chose to accept would determine the future of Carly Madison Gregg. When it was the defense's moment, attorney Bridget Todd spoke passionately. She conveyed to the jury that Carly was not a cold-blooded murderer, but rather a profoundly troubled child. Todd detailed Carly's history of anxiety, depression, and auditory hallucinations, contending that a shift in her medication could have precipitated a mental breakdown. She stated, this tragedy claimed 3 lives, Ashley's, Heath's, and Carly's, and argued that what appeared to be planning was truly confusion. In her closing argument, Todd urged the jury to perceive Carly as anything but a monster, yet as a sick 14-year-old in need of assistance, rather than a lifetime in prison. The jury took less than 2 hours to deliberate. It was a clear indication that they had come to a solid agreement.
All right, the verdicts appear to be in proper form. Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Yes, sir. Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? You got to answer out loud, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes. On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? That verdict is proper and unanimous.
Here's what they determined. The insanity plea was completely dismissed. The jury concurred with the prosecution that Carly was fully aware of her actions. Next up was the sentencing phase. According to Mississippi law, The jury had three choices: life with the possibility of parole, life without parole, or deferring the decision to the judge.
As to count one, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment. As to count two, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment.
The verdict concluded with life imprisonment, without the chance for parole. For the attempted murder charge, Carly received an additional life sentence to run concurrently at just 15 years old. Carly Madison Gregg was sentenced to spend her entire life behind bars. Reactions were mixed. Ashley Smiley's family felt that justice had been achieved, while others were devastated that a young girl would spend her whole life imprisoned. Carly cried softly as deputies escorted her back to the detention center where she would stay, until being transferred to an adult prison. The case of Carly Gregg concluded without any sense of victory, only the heavy burden of a tragedy that shattered an entire family. Carly's father, Kevin Gregg, spoke with the press. He believed that her mental illness was inherited and felt that the system had let her down long before the heartbreak occurred. Carly's defense team sought a new trial, asserting that crucial mental health evidence had been omitted, particularly Kevin's account of Carly's childhood hallucinations. However, Judge Dewey Arthur rejected the motion, ruling that even if the evidence were considered, it wouldn't have altered the verdict. The defense has since appealed to the Mississippi Court of Appeals, although such reversals are uncommon. For the time being, Carly is in a youth correctional facility located in Parole. When she turns 18, she will be transferred to the Central Mississippi Correctional Facility, where she will spend the remainder of her life. Her attorney, Bridget Todd, insists that the system failed Carly, arguing that a mentally ill child should never have faced trial as an adult. The prosecution, on the other hand, asserts that justice was served and that Carly intentionally planned her actions and knew what she was doing. Carly's appeal could take years, and even if it is granted, it would lead to another trial, not her release. For now, she remains behind bars, just 15 years old, facing a lifetime, shaped by the events that unfolded when she was 14.